Welcome to another episode of Wine Down with Kev. Thank you so much for tuning in to watch this podcast, listen to this podcast. Thank you to everyone that has subscribed to follow us on YouTube. I must always begin with gratefulness. It's at the core of who I am. So before I say anything else, big thank you to you and all of you from the bottom of my heart. Well, I'm super excited to bring to you today. I am on a mission to bring you 50 agents from 50 different states doing a podcast with each of them and shining a light how important and how different it is, each agent in every state and the value of a local insurance agent. Today, we're going to the great state of Pennsylvania. I think it's the first state in the union. Correct me if I'm wrong. Don't judge me, not a history major. But we have a wonderful agent, my friend. She's the wife. She's the mom. Like me, she's the mother of 3 boys, but she also has a bonus son. So 4 boys. Let's go, Heather. She's a giver back to the community, all around warrior. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together. Put some wonderful things in the emojis for my friend, my fellow Allstate agent, Heather Ebersole.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
How are you? How are you today? You doing okay?
I am fantastic. Thank you.
Good. I tried to give you a good introduction, but tell the people something about yourself that I didn't say.
Oh, my goodness. Well, I probably have a whole book to say. How long do you have? No.
I love it.
A little fun fact is I love being a business owner. And, for anybody that's kind of on that fence, I would say just dive in, because when you start doing it, you're going to wish that you've done it sooner.
I love it. That's a great fun fact to kick off at. But Heather, I'm not going to dive in with insurance with you right away. You are frying some bigger fish in the oven right now. You are on day 16 of a journey, a mission, a life-changing thing that you're posting daily on Facebook. I'm a big fan. I'm following you. Talk to the people about this journey that you are on.
Yeah. So I think health is truly a journey.
Yes.
And to me, it's a lot more than just weight on the scale. Probably the last year, I've been seeing a holistic doctor locally here in my Mechanicsburg, Camp Hill area. And she's gotten me off of all kinds of allergy medicine. I literally don't take any kind of medicine that's coming out of a bottle. Everything is very holistic, right from getting my hormones straight. I'm a 45-year-old woman, thyroid. And she had mentioned that she could see some imbalance in my sugar, which was not the first time I've heard it. Okay. I was gestational diabetic when I had my twins. Okay. And I knew kind of later in life, if I couldn't get weight under control, it was probably going to come full circle and tell me I was going to become diabetic one day. And like most other people, we ignore these things until it kind of is ready to slap you in the face. So my last visit over the summer, she said, hey, I really think that we need to do this Candida 4-month detox, the Candida diet. And it's no sugar, no flour, no dairy, which also means no alcohol.
Ooh, you saved the big one for last.
I know, right? But I just kind of prepped myself mentally over the holidays. She wanted me to start it in November, and I said, there's no way I can do that. Baking Christmas cookies is my absolute favorite tradition with my kids, my mom. There's no way I can do it. I will eat the cookies.
Yes.
She said, no problem. Into the new year, we'll kickstart it. And I said, okay. And I've just mentally prepared myself. It's almost similar to like a keto diet.
Okay.
I've done that before. So I kind of knew what to prepare for with the headaches, making sure that you have just the certain things that in your body that your body still needs. And I'm just enjoying it. I'm honestly impressing myself of the discipline. I have not had a cheat item. I haven't accidentally picked up a piece of candy and go, oh shoot, I wasn't supposed to eat that. Like I'm just really on a mission But I believe that when you can have discipline in your life in one area, it trickles into other areas. And as your listeners are going to probably hear, there's a lot of disruption in the insurance space. And I think I'm so determined to show that I can take control of my eating and not eat for comfort. I'm retraining my brain that we eat for fuel.
Yes.
That I'm going to be able to take control in those other areas of my life and run a more successful business than I ever have. And I think that's really the driving force. But who doesn't want to take care of your health at the same time? And so far in 16 days, I have lost 9 pounds, which is really cool. And lots more to go, but that's okay. We'll get there. And I keep reminding myself and everybody, it was not about losing the weight. It is about to train my body of how to process sugars again. So that's the big focus.
Wow. So it's a lifestyle change, not a number change. So first, kudos to you before I comment at all. That's not an easy sacrifice to give up all the comfort foods, the things that make us feel better after a long, stressful day, whether that's as a business owner or a mom or a wife or whatever it is that day that's top of the list, to give up those things that we can quickly put in our mouths to make us feel good. It is not easy. So let me see if I caught the Candida deal right. Diet is like up there with the other 4-letter words that I try not to use. So I like changing lifestyle more than diet. So no carbs, no sugar, no dairy. What did I miss?
That's it. Well, and the no alcohol part, but
I that was by design. I left that one out. I acted like I didn't hear you. I just completely omitted that by design.
Well, it's also supposed to be no coffee, but I kind of omitted that part. And I told her too that I just drew the line. That's where I drew the line. I cannot remove it. I can lower the portions. And she said, honestly, after I think I saw her as my follow-up at like day 8, and I'd already dropped some weight and I was feeling great. And at that point, I thought I kind of worked through all the headaches already from the withdrawal. I didn't. The following day was like the worst one, but she was like, I'm already seeing the results that I'm happy with. And she said, and if that's where you have to draw the line, then that's okay. So
stand your ground. Stand your ground. No way we're giving up the coffee. Well, good for you. You talked about the sugar withdrawals and the headaches. I think we all let me ask you a different question. How long does the diet go? Is this a permanent lifestyle shift?
No, this is a 4-month detox. Now, after the first 4 weeks, I'll be able to introduce apples, pears, and berries because it's no fruit at this point in time. And then I think that the game plan, if I could probably guess what she's going to do, she'll probably have me introduce dairy back in, but it be in the raw form. So raw milk, raw cheese, and then from there, see if we can incorporate flour. But I'll be honest, with all the talk of gluten and what it does to our bodies, I could almost see myself intentionally eliminating the flour part. I have a funny feeling that that's probably what my body has a hard time processing.
Okay.
But we'll see. I'm just taking it 4 months at a time, and we'll see where that goes.
All the best. All the best. Well, let's pivot. All this talk about giving up good things, it's making me put me in a bad place. So let's pivot. Let's talk about you and I, what you and I have in common. Tell me what you love about being an all-state agent, and tell us how you got into the business.
Yeah. Well, I will first and foremost say my absolute favorite part is having friends just like you and I. It is my favorite thing is to get to know other agents who I would be so gracious to call my friends now. That is my absolute favorite part. I never knew coming into becoming an all-state agent that I was going to have that community, and it's been the best part of it. What got me into it, this is kind of comes where it's part of my spiritual journey, where I don't know at that time if I would have said God. I would probably more said the universe told me at some point in time, probably around 2018, 2019, that I was supposed to have my own insurance agency. And I randomly told my accountant, and she's like, well, then you and your husband are going to both be self-employed.
Right.
Yep. I guess so then. Right.
Yes.
And I happened to tell a distant aunt of mine that I was like, well, that's so weird. I just wrote that into a letter to her, but she'll never know the difference if I do it or not. Like, I don't ever see her. We're kind of pen pals, and it's fine. And then I found myself listening to podcasts, learning more about what was all involved in it. And my long story short of it was when COVID happened, I happened to be visiting my aunt that St. Patrick's Day, so March of 2020, and literally started watching the world shut down. My kids' school closed down. When the basketball game stopped, I knew something big was going to happen. But at the time, I worked in the auto industry, and I had been there for about 8 years. And I just said to her, there's no way that the auto industry is going to shut down. Like, the rest of the world might shut down. Nothing stops the auto industry. We go in snow, storms, it doesn't matter. And she said, oh, no, I think it's going to shut down. Wow. And sure enough, it did. And I used that time to get my licenses again. So I did once before work in commercial insurance, completely different than what we do now. Mm-hmm. And I was thankful enough to find an agency that was within like 20 minutes of where I lived, that she just happened to be ready to retire. She was, in her 70s and ready to enjoy the next stage of life. And I do want to just mention, God bless her soul. She recently passed in 2024, but I'm very grateful that she gave me the opportunity to take over her babies, right? Her clients. And here I be.
I'm blown away. You went from the car dealership industry, researched this independently, heard the voice of God, and you're in a safe space. You could say that here, definitely with me. And you researched and entered an industry without working in it before, without having any pre-mentors before joining the industry, literally a faith walk.
I say to this day, I didn't even know how to process a payment, let alone, I probably knew what comprehensive and collision were. I could probably tell you the difference between that, but pretty much anything else, I'm not going to lie, I relied on everybody else to teach me very, very fast.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. So before we leave your background in the auto industry, did you sell cars? What was your job exactly?
Yeah, so I started in sales. Then I worked in the internet department. It was like a business development, trying to get people to get out of their lease a little early, working people that were coming through the service drive. Hey, maybe instead of getting your car fixed today, trade your car in. Work in finance director, and then ended as a sales manager. So most of my time was at their, it was a Faulkner dealership group. Most of it was at their Honda store. Part was at the Mazda store, and then I ended at the Cadillac store. So really enjoyed it. I made a lot of great money, but I had no balance in life. And looking back at it now, I just had no idea how much my husband really actually missed seeing me. I just always thought that I was hustling for our family. I felt like my kids were taken care of because at least when they weren't with me, they were with my parents. That thankfully, they were really there to help take care of them and feed them dinner, taking them to after school activities. But I truly believe that something bigger than me was really drawing me to become something that I had more flexibility so I could be there with my family before they were out the door. And just very grateful for that opportunity. The auto industry was very, very good to me, but I'm so thankful to not be in it anymore.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Now, talk to us about where you are at. Invite us to South Central Pennsylvania. You're in the Harrisburg area. Introduce the people around the country. Talk about where you are and give us a 30, 60-second picture of what it's like.
Well, if everybody can picture where Harrisburg is on the map, there's this beautiful little river that goes right by Harrisburg, and they call it the East Shore versus the West Shore. I live on the East Shore, but my office is on the West Shore. So some people laugh that they hate to like drive over the bridge. But I am this cute little quaint town called Camp Hill.
Yes.
It is almost like a Hallmark movie town during the holidays. All the business owners, we all know each other. We support each other. It's a very walkable, shoppable community where our hashtag is Thrive Here. And
I
it is just awesome.
It sounds like something somebody can run for office on, saying, "Hey, come here. You're just not going to live here. You're going to thrive here. Thrive here in 2025."
Yes.
I love it. I love it. I love it. So, Heather, one of the things I'm looking to do with the 50 agents in 50 states is that each of us, it doesn't matter that I'm in this business for almost 4 decades. I've never sold a policy in the great state of Pennsylvania. I've driven through Pennsylvania more times than I care to remember. Positive experience, but full disclosure, I struggle with heights. So when I'm driving on Route 80, I lived in Chicago for a number of years, and I get to those areas that's very beautiful looking and mountainous and all those wonderful views. My stomach can't take it. So back to the matter at hand. Being in South Central Pennsylvania, you guys have all 4 seasons. What are some of the natural disasters and weather calamities that you have to prepare your clients?
Most damage from is when there's a hurricane down south. Like I'll give the example of just this past summer when the hurricane was hitting the Carolinas.
Mhm.
You don't realize how broad those storm bands are, that at the same time, the same day it was hitting, the eye of the storm was hitting the Carolinas on the coast, it was actually causing massive flooding here in Pennsylvania, and I know in Ohio as well. So when we have that much rainwater on our grounds, where we get a couple inches within an hour, our grounds just can't handle that, and we find a lot of water backup when our grounds can't handle it, and then we get a lot of the windstorm from it as well. So my heart goes to those who are actually really getting hit by those hurricane forces, because I can't even imagine, because just the tropical storm that hits in Pennsylvania is already devastating enough and really scary to go through. But that's probably the biggest thing that I've seen so far in the 4 years being here.
Okay. Have you gone through one of those storms, one of those hurricanes where some of your customers are impacted and you had to help put them back together?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. I mean, we've had, from a tree is completely demolished the home to, that half the house being ripped apart to their entire basement being flooded up to the very first floor. And that can be really devastating, as anyone can imagine.
So you gave us 3 scenarios: a tree falling on a roof, scary; flooding because there's no place for the groundwater to go, another scenario; and then the roof. In those scenarios, how important is it to have a local agent like yourself that has great relationships with the local plumber, the electrician, and just overall being able to put people in good hands, no cliche, not just all states, but the right people in the community to put their lives back together so they can thrive here again?
Well, I would hope that it's invaluable, right? Now, it's the whole point that there are many ways to run an insurance agency. And I'm very thankful that when I first opened up, I actually met with a company that really helped me kind of discover who, what, and why am I here. And Ebersole Insurance is my agency name. And it was really important to me that we did things the way that we would want to be treated in that sense. And, in a world where you can go online and you can sign up for a lot of things yourself, that certainly doesn't mean you're an insurance expert and you don't understand the process. But we are so heavy on being able to be reached by communication, whether it's by email, even on weekends, by text message. Those are monitored 7 days a week in our agency, by phone, that we just want to make sure that when you have something go wrong, that you have a way to reach us directly versus just going to a voicemail or having to go to a call center.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. You said a mouthful there. You really showed a lot of value in your agency, especially with those scenarios. Disaster doesn't strike neatly during the middle of the workday. Disaster doesn't show up at 9 to 5. Disasters come at 10 o'clock at night, 11 o'clock at night. 2 o'clock in the morning. And that's the time where it's really important to know who to call and not to say, my insurance is with the bank. Wrong answer.
That's
Wrong
right.
answer. You laughed at that statement. Have you experienced that with people that weren't insured with you yet? And they
Oh,
made the mistake of thinking that the local bank had their insurance.
yeah. I mean, I think we encounter that a lot. And, I always do cringe. So we always say when we quote somebody that's not with us currently, we always say it never hurts to review your current insurance. And if nothing else, you're going to leave our call better educated about what you have and what is available to protect you. And we let it go from there. Because I think a lot of people think that full coverage is a term, and we refuse to acknowledge that is not an insurance term.
Yes.
And it is very important to us and my entire team. Nobody gets to work on my team if they feel that is an adequate term to use. We don't just sell policies. We are putting the proper protection in place to make sure that if and when that bad day happens, that they can reach us with the confidence that we can take care of them. Another big thing that my team always says is, for someone who says, I just want the bare minimum, whatever the state requires, they'll literally say, I just don't know if this agency is the right agency for you.
Yes.
Heather really takes pride in that she is so involved in the community, whether it's, right here in Camp Hill or by her home. If she runs into you at the grocery store and you say hi, and we kind of joke about it, right? You're probably going to know that it's her before she knows that it's you, because we don't see the picture of you. But she always wants you to say hello. But
Yes.
she wants to say hello with the confidence that she doesn't want to go hide behind the aisle that we've sold a really crappy policy to you. And we want to make sure that we've gone through the proper conversation to make sure that you're protected so that she can feel pride in having that conversation with you. So that is just something that, we say quite often, to be very honest. And I think that just goes to show that it's more than just a policy on our book of business. It is truly making sure that a family or a community member is protected.
I love it. You are saying some things right now, Heather, that's making half the audience, especially anyone listening in the great state of PA, wonder what it's like for them to get in the insurance industry. So let's go ahead and bridge to that question. How does someone get into the insurance business in Pennsylvania? How do they follow their journey? How do they get started?
Yeah, I would think it's probably similar in almost all the states, right? You do have to go through a pre-licensing course. I was always told it's about 40 hours of going through the booklet, the courses online. And I was always encouraged to consider it as like another 40 hours of study time. And then you can go take the test. And now, since COVID, this was not available when I took the test in 2020, but you can do it virtual or you can go to a testing center. I would just warn that the virtual option, they want to make sure that it is a cleared out room, nothing near you, no sounds can go on. And if your internet disconnects, that means you're coming back to take the test again. I couldn't even imagine doing that. So I was glad I went to the testing center, but
I love it. I love it. I love it. Well, let's talk about you starting this business 2020 post-COVID. The dealership shuts down. You're looking for a new opportunity. You're coming in to anything but business as normal, but you knew no different. How did you walk into an environment where, for a period of time, I don't know how long, where it really wasn't safe to see customers? I know in New York, we had so many health protocols that we had to do. We had to have people washing their hands. We had to have masks available, so many things. What was that experience like when you're coming into the insurance business, but you find yourself running a medical practice as well?
Yeah. So thankfully, Pennsylvania, I think, eased up a lot sooner than you did. There were definitely some periods where we had to have our doors locked with a note, but there weren't too many. We did have masks available. We even had gloves available. We've gone as far as, keeping those distance lines on the floor so that, hey, if you sit here, I'm going to sit back here and keep that distance. But we didn't have a ton of foot traffic. The previous agent had actually already had closed her doors about 6 months prior. to selling the agency. So I think everybody was kind of used to not coming in. And then once they started hearing our voices answer the phones, they realized, oh, like there's somebody actually really in the office again. Now I can come in. And at that point, we were pretty much already open. It's fun to look back at like our ribbon cutting. You know, I had a mask on for one of the first events that we did here in our little downtown Camp Hill district. We all had to wear masks, even that it was that December of 2020. And the only way that we could have the event was if we had our mask on. And there's a picture of me and Santa walking around in the event, and both Santa and I have a mask on. I'm like, well, you can always remember what year that was, right?
Yeah.
If the masks were on.
It's date stamped forever. So now that we're in the community, you're walking around with Santa, we've got the picture of the mask. Talk about some of the other things you're involved in the community. I looked at your website. I saw that JFT support is important to you. Talk about JFT support.
Yes. So JFT is just for today. It is a veterans support and recovery group. It is just very near and dear to me. I could never serve in the military. I'm just not built that way. But for whatever reason, I don't even come from a military family. But I just always had a lot of respect and love and appreciation for anybody who does serve for this country. And I do feel that it's really sad to hear that JFT was telling us as we were trying to figure out, like, where do we get involved in, that there were more veterans committing suicide every day during COVID because their resources were closed than people were actually dying of COVID. So let that sink in. More of our veterans who lived their life to protect us were committing suicide at a higher frequency than people were dying of COVID.
Wow.
And that felt like the right outreach to say that's where my money, my energy is going to go. And anything from donating coffee for their little coffee shop, donating food for their events, clothes, time during some of their fundraisers. And thankfully, you know, as Allstate does a Helping Hands grant and they match funds as well. So that's been a really great way to even double up our investments and donations in to really give back to those who have given everything for us.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Thank God for you. Thank you for your service, for all the veterans listening to the podcast, watching the podcast. On the other hand, you do what you do with veterans. You and I share a charity in common. I probably did Toys for Tots for about 10 years, also collected the vets. Shout out to the U.S. Marine Corps. They're always leading that effort. Yeah. How did you get involved with Toys for Tots? Is that something you're still doing today?
Oh, absolutely. And, you know, I'm not 100% sure how. I don't know if it was my mom who was working part-time for me, if she had reached out or if they had reached out to us. But of course, that answer was absolutely yes. We want to participate. And of course, we do it every year.
I love it. I love it. You have a lot of times when I visit agents' websites, I'm obviously giving agents a lot of advice on the website and other things. Some of the bios are very canned. They're pre-written, pre-scripted. Yours is not. You had a statement on your bio that I love that I'm going to read to you, that I'm going to ask you for your reaction. One of the best things I think that really captures the importance and the role of the local insurance agent and the value in the community, or really for everyone else. The statement is this: insurance is crucial, but it can be confusing. Insurance is crucial, but insurance can be confusing. Talk to me about that.
Well, there's a lot of different parts to insurance policies, you know, and it goes back to, again, people using the term full coverage. And they think that means that everything is covered. And that's just not the truth. You know, you have parts of your policy. So if you hurt somebody else, there's a limit to that. If you damage somebody's property, whether it's their vehicle or you run into their building or you run into a business's building or you run over their fence, that's a property part of the policy, right? You have your own vehicle. Do you have comprehensive on it for something like you hit like a deer, your windshield, collision? And what does that look like? You also have limits if your vehicle is financed, right? That bank might have limitations. You lease a vehicle. Thankfully, I understood that from being in the finance department, but leasing companies oftentimes will have their own limits that they require you to have in place as well. So I just think that everybody thinks, well, my home is protected. And they just think it means for everything. That means if my house floods, the tree falls on it, my house is covered. Yes. Well, that's not always the case, right? So we really just try to have that conversation and find out what insurable risks do people have, what would be the best kind of protection to have. And then somewhere in the middle is where we usually meet. We try to explain all the things that are available. But like most people, we all have budgets. So I always say, I want to give you the most protection that you can afford.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. So you're giving just tremendous advice. You're obviously very involved in the community. Coming from the dealership background, at that finance office, when someone's getting the car, that person almost sees the finance person as an advisor, or the realtor as an advisor to what we're doing. Getting into this business 5 years ago, getting licensed, how shocked were you when you studied for the license and how many years you had insurance and there was so much you didn't know?
I kind of knew to expect that. And I'll be honest, the first 6 months were brutal. They were just, in Allstate's world, I was doing great, right? I think I had a 2.8 million book of business.
Nice.
And, I think I had to sell 9 autos a month. That wasn't really paying the bills, right? You're supposed to have 3 people plus yourself, and you're trying to figure it all out. But then thankfully, from me listening to podcasts every morning to start my day out, I'm a very big believer on you start your day out with the positive in, the positive comes out.
Yes.
And that's how I found, just different information of how to get started in the insurance industry. And I just kept that tradition. And one of my team members said, she was really leaning in to listening to podcasts herself. And she came across the insurance dudes.
Nice.
They interviewed the one, the only Laura Harris.
Outstanding. They couldn't have had a better interview.
I know. And I listened to that podcast over and over. I remember walking through the Aldi grocery store with my earbuds in, it was on replay. I was like, man, she is a beast. And I thought, I'm going to reach out to her. What's the worst that's going to happen? She's either just going to ignore my phone call, not take my phone call, or ignore my email. And I got a voicemail when I did call, but I sent her an email and she replied back. And I was in the office really early. That would have been Eastern time. I want to say it could have been 7:00 Eastern time, which would have been 6:00 her time.
Central, yes.
And she replied back and she said, do you have a minute now? I sure do. And we talked for a little bit over an hour. Probably can't remember all the things we had talked about, but the very end, she said, are you signed up with CWC?
Yes.
And I said, oh, Laura, all these acronyms, I don't even know what that is. And she said, no, it's Craig Wiggins Coaching.
Yes.
And she said, I'm going to send you a link or referral, and, you definitely want to get signed up. And I'm not too proud to say that I maxed out the last credit card I had left in that first 6 months of opening for $177 was what it was at that time. And I signed up. I said, okay, let's do this. Let me figure this out. And I got to say, what an amazing platform for somebody who does not know what they're doing. It really gave me the path, and it really synced really well with what I was trying to do. I was trying to have the proper conversations about coverage and protection. I was trying to come up with, well, how do we answer the phone? How do we answer this question? And it just loaded our lips like crazy. And I'd like to say that, first month in, we just took off. Well, I'm human. It took us 60 days until we really started to see any lift. And in another 6 months from that, since then, I've been asked to be on the District Growth Council for Allstate. I've been asked to be on their NAB committee. I now sit on the service committee. I'm actually our NAB chair speaker. And it just has changed my life. And I always think that things happen for reasons. CWC then introduced me to Justin Harkleroad.
Outstanding. Talk about Justin. Wait,
Yeah.
before we pivot, big shout out to Laura Harris.
Yes.
Laura is the mentor's mentor, and congratulations on her recent retirement. And absolutely big shout out to Craig Wiggins, CWC, Craig Wiggins Coaching. Take that jewel, that tip from Heather that she dropped right there. If you're new to the business, you want to know where to go, definitely start there. Now, back to my man, Justin. Bring me up to speed. Talk about having Justin as a mentor in the beginning, and please give Justin a big plug and talk about the standard playbook, what he's working on right now.
Absolutely. So listening to the CWC platform, this is months into it, I found a really old recording when he was speaking on stage, and he kept dropping the F-bombs. And I'm like, that's my dude.
That's Justin.
Wear like a sailor myself, and it's just who I am. It's just a way of life. I don't know why I'm that way, but I just am. And I thought, I knew I wanted to coach through CWC, but I just never felt like the right one really fit for what I was looking for. And I said, that's my guy. Like, I know it. So as soon as he announced that he was going to be coaching, I sat with him. It was December. And I remember I had COVID. I was at home sick with COVID, and my first call didn't have my normal energy in it. But he really helped me all but max out my pay plan that following year. And it was just shy. I want to say it was like 3.96. I'll take it.
Yes.
And then, as you grow, I don't ever want someone to think that everything is just all roses and sunshine. I've definitely had a lot of bumps along the way. That second year in was probably like my best. And I would say that last year, I really kind of got a little crazy and figured like, how far can I kind of push the envelope? And I probably didn't have the best of the year that I was looking for, but I've learned so much. And I know that I'm so early in on this that learning some of these lessons from 2024 and 4 years in, I'm A-okay with it. I don't expect everything to be perfect, but I'm a big believer that when a mistake happens, as long as you learn from it, you're good to go. But the standard playbook that he is building is really kind of comes from the Warrior Way. And he met a gentleman named Garrett White out in California, and he met him years ago. I'm not 100% sure of how long ago, but Garrett is really big on taking care of your body. And at that time, when Justin first met him, it was balance, the connection to your loved ones and your business. And since then, it's really kind of adapted into that Garrett has also realized that he was going to not hold back, and it is really about being. Your spirituality is just as important. So Warrior Way is focused on your body, your being, your balance, and your business. And when you are intentional in all four of those areas in life, amazing things can happen. So when you take that philosophy and you add it in to all the wisdom that Justin has of how to run an agency, it is like the most amazing mix that we get to connect with other agents and we get to learn, but he holds me accountable and gives me a good, swift kick in the butt. There's still sometimes where I'll say, no, I hear you. I respect your advice. I'm going to try it because I want to try it anyways. And he's like, okay, but then like, what's the dollar limit that we're going to spend on it? Or what's the limit that we are going to know, is it working or not? And then we're going to pivot. Right. And I always like that. But he is phenomenal. The standard playbook to me is just a way of living. I've always been a big believer that when you work out, business always seems to boom as well. Mm-hmm. And I think when people were asking me last year, because I had a tremendous amount of growth, they said, what are you doing? And I kept saying, I'm working out.
Yes.
But what are you really doing?
Yes.
Honestly, nothing else has changed. I'm working out.
Working out releases the endorphins. It releases the endorphins to get you going to takes you to the next level.
Yep.
I want to pivot one more time as we begin to slowly land the plane. your digital presence has gotten incredibly strong.
Oh.
How important is it to you to have that strong digital presence to tell the overall story of Heather the person, Heather the agent, Heather the person that's in the community? How important is it for you to have your presence? And what do your customers say to you, and even your prospects say to you when they see all the things you're doing online?
You know, I honestly don't feel like I get too much feedback. I think that I always want it to come across as being very sincere. And I just want people to have a chance to feel like they know me, right? Whether you're my client or you're not yet, I want you to feel that I am just as human. And I think that's one of our specialties here at our agency is we talk like real people. I've actually had a client come in and he was like, well, who is my agent? Oh, like who is the agent? And I didn't understand his question at first. And I was like, what do you mean? The agency's name? He's like, no, who's my agent? Like, who owns it? I'm like, I do. I'm Heather Ebersole. And he's like, no offense. He's like, I expected somebody uglier and older.
Is that the knock on our industry? Is that where we're supposed to be?
I guess. And I said, well, you know, and I'm very casual. I wear jeans in my office. As you can see, a sweater, it is a very normal attire, but I'm just very real. I literally do walk up and down this street all day long. I'm in the downtown Camp Hill district, which means it's the main street. It's Market Street, which is only a couple blocks worth. But I sit on our downtown Camp Hill executive board. I sit on our regular downtown board. I am chair of our promotions committee. I am co-chair to our plein air committee, and I sit on our sponsorship committee. So when you talk about being very involved in the community, I just really felt that the other business owners just really reached out to me and made me feel welcome, being that I've never really come to Camp Hill very much. But I love this little town. I love their events, which create it to be a fun environment for people to want to come to our little town, and it encourages them to visit our stores here. But they actually influenced me so much that when I decided I needed a bigger space, they have a plein air, which is just an outdoor painting event. And my father happens to be a painter. He was a graphic design artist for many years, but he loves to paint, and he's participated in the plein air event here and in many other places. And when I saw this building that I'm in now, I said, Dad, I got a wild idea. And he said, okay. He said, well, let's meet for breakfast. He's like, when do you want to meet? I'm like, can you meet today? Because I tend to be that spontaneous child. I have an idea and I go full force. I don't think about it too much because I just know that I'll figure it out. But I said to him, Dad, I love this building. Like, it's bigger than what I need. But I woke up the next day and it kind of like how God or the universe told me to open up my own insurance agency. Something is telling me to open up something where there's art in these 3 rooms in the downstairs part of this building. And I said, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't even know where this idea is coming from. And he said, oh my gosh, Camp Hill would love that. There's no longer an art gallery in Camp Hill. And they have this plein air. And I mean, where I am growing up, my whole life, my parents were always trying to pull me back because I was going 10 steps too forward. It was the first time that my parents were encouraging me, to go for it and go for it now, like go big. So needless to say, we moved into this bigger building. I have a conference room on the 3rd floor. The 2nd floor is where we operate the Allstate. And on the 1st floor, I have Gallery on Market. Gallo is my maiden name. And so it's GALLO''RY. And I do support my father. His artwork is here. But we also encourage other local artists. We even have an artist from New York. So I'm kind of proud about that. He had reached out. So we do have some New York cityscape here. But about every month to 2 months, we'll rotate out a different artist. And I'm so proud of that part of my business adventure because our Downtown Camp Hill Association is part of our plein air event. We give $1,000 scholarship that I sponsor to one of the graduating students from the Camp Hill High School for them to go off to college. And I don't know why. I know it's not $1 million, but it just feels so darn good to just show the
Feels
younger
amazing.
community that, you have a local business here supporting you. And it's not the only scholarship we give away during that event. There's another one that goes to Camp Cadensis, which is also for children, and kind of they have an art part of their camp. But this downtown district just truly makes you fall in love with what we're trying to do, right? And we're just trying to help each other. So I love to record when I go to Cornerstone Coffee Shop and we hold a meeting. I love to show that I'm buying the flowers from Blooms by Victory. I love to go, and just acknowledge anybody else. I find it to be fun, and I find it to just be real. And I kind of want people to see that, I truly am in the community. I'm not sitting in my house and not talking to anybody.
Heather, you have said everything to demonstrate the value of a local agent in Camp Hill, PA, South Central PA, all of PA, and you've done an amazing job. Before we land this plane, any last comments that you'd like to share with the people before we go?
No, I think I'm just going to repeat it again, because sometimes we have to hear it more times than not. If you are somebody who's not happy working for somebody else and you have an idea, I strongly encourage you to go after it. I knew nothing. I didn't have my license. I had no idea how to go after a business loan. I knew nothing. But when you have a desire to do something more and you feel like you are one of those chosen ones that deserves, or that you're being driven to do more, I promise you, you really are. And you just have to take a step forward, do your research, and just be open-minded. And I promise you, God, the universe, whatever it is, those opportunities will come to you.
Ladies and gentlemen, you've just listened to an amazing episode of Wine Down with Kev, the Dream Chaser podcast. No one could have said it better. For all of you out there that are sitting on your dreams, be encouraged by Heather. Go for it. Don't take no for an answer. If you like what you heard here, click subscribe to the link below, and we'll see you on the next podcast. Great job, Heather.